Welcome to the Queen's Lair, a lifestyle podcast. Get inspired by our latest tips and information about small business, entrepreneurship, natural hair, travel, food, and even relationships. Stay tuned for another great episode. I am your host, Renee Patrice. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into my podcast once again. Today's topic, I didn't even know that I was going to talk about this. I've been trying to not get too worked up about everything that's going on in the world right now, of course, with everything happening since George Floyd's murder, and it has just sparked outrage, and I think things that have just been bubbling up for a really long time, because of course he is not the first person to go through this and to be, on camera, and how all of this has affected the Black community, and how the discussion of police brutality is again in the forefront. So I have not really engaged with people too much on the subject. I've just kind of posted articles and, helpful information, that has to do with the protests, helpful information for people to donate, to help these organizations bring about change. So in the middle of all of that, is your life, and you're living your life, and trying to explain to the kids what's going on, which I can imagine is a tough thing to do. And also just trying to keep your sanity. And we are still in the middle of a global pandemic, don't you know? So, it's just been pretty crazy. But I wanted to kind of speak on the subject of the Black community itself and us supporting each other across the African diaspora. So I was a part of a meeting, and I'm not gonna name names of people and all of that, because I'm not about that sort of fostering negativity. But I wanted to, give my thoughts on this, because it was very poignant to me how we think about each other, and how we are so divided, and how that is the goal of white supremacy, is to keep us divided within our own group. We can go down this road to talk about colorism, excuse me. And when we think about colorism and, light-skinned blacks versus dark-skinned blacks, and the colorism that exists in the Caribbean is definitely a thing. My background is West Indian, so that's definitely a thing there, and has been for a long time. Even the Latino countries in the Caribbean and outside, there are so many different groups of people, and the lighter Latinos tend to be more in the forefront historically. It's not all that way, but historically that has been the case, and the darker Latinos tended to be the quote-unquote blue-collar workers or domestics and things of that nature. So this is something that we have seen for generations and generations, and I know a lot of people will say to me, my goodness, you speak on so many topics and just, are knowledgeable about these different things. Well, I'm not 21 years old, fresh out of college. I'm in my 40s. So I've seen a lot of stuff, and I can speak on many things. But what I do try to do is I try to educate myself on, the way people feel about things, and to see why they feel the way that they do. So I may not agree with you. I may not be, quote unquote, siding with you on a particular subject matter, but I am at least open to hearing why you feel the way that you do. So, just to get to this, I was a part of a discussion with other Black female entrepreneurs, and there was another woman who was speaking her piece. She's in the political world, and she was speaking her piece, about voting and the importance, of down ballots and things like this. So, okay. We're having the discussion, and there was another young lady who was disagreeing with her on a subject matter. Now, my thing is like this. There is definitely a divide, and this is something that I've always seen that has to do with Black Americans and Black people outside of Americans, like Black foreigners. So when I say Black foreigners, I mean West Indians, I mean African, I mean, Black people, but from the, other parts of the African diaspora. For me personally, I am about uniting all Black people. So that includes African American, that includes Jamaicans, that includes Haitians, that includes, all of our African diaspora, that includes Puerto Ricans, that includes Dominicans, all of that. So I want us to get together as a people. I think that would be the goal of a lot of Black people. But there is this divide that has always existed, because even when I was in high school in the 80s to early 90s. And there was always this divide of the Black American kids and the West Indian kids. And there was always this thing about the West Indians are coming in and taking all our jobs. And of course, Jamaica used to get hit the hardest, one of the hardest. Oh, the Jamaicans are coming and taking all the jobs. The Trinis are coming in and taking all the jobs, all this sort of stuff. And even Mexicans, I know they get this as well. Oh, the Mexicans will come in and just take all the, well, listen. From my West Indian side, it was always something my grandmother always used to say. You have to build from the bottom up. You know what I mean? You have to build from the bottom up until you can walk straight. Build from the bottom up, and then you will get to the different levels. You can't start from the top down. You have to go from the bottom up. So I know that there are groups that are like, we want our reparations, Black American groups. They want their reparations and they want their 40 acres and a mule. I agree. I am not against that at all. Okay? So, especially the descendants of, directly, from slavery. I get it. I totally get it. And I'm not against it. I'm so for it. But one of the things that kind of threw me in the conversation is that when I was explaining my background, that my mom and dad are from Jamaica, immediately the conversation started to take a turn, because it's like, well, you're not technically a Black American or whatever the case may be. That's the tone of the situation. And I said, well, I am a Black American. I don't really refer to myself as African American. That's kind of like the PC term that's thrown around these days. I just refer to myself as Black. Done. Because I feel like that covers everything, because a Black person from Canada is not an African American. You know what I mean? My parents are not African American. They're just not. So, you know what I mean? So to me, what would be an African American would be like close friends of mine whose family is from Africa. Both her parents are from Africa, and she was born in America. To me, that is the meaning of African American. But that's, tomato, people are going to split hairs over that, whatever. I just call it Black and call it a day. But it threw me how much this woman did not want to hear what anybody else had to say. She would listen for a time, and then it just turned into her being very upset and her being very ticked off, about, and just calling people out and saying that they're wrong. And the thing is, It's not that the people are wrong. They may not have statistics for things. They are giving you their experience. They're giving you their experience, and their experience and their path that they've walked in their life is valid. So they may not have all the statistical numbers because they may not be the political, impresario that you may be. But just for me personally, I do have a political background, a very strong political background. I chose to walk away from the political life because of the 9-to-5 world and decided to go full time with my business. And I still am in those circles here and there, and I can speak intelligently on it. And the thing is, some people are so used to being the loudest one in the room and the one with all the information and the one who is always schooling people that it gets to the point sometimes that you don't listen. You hear what other people say, but you don't listen. And that is a major divide with Black people, because you have the Black Americans who are talking and saying things about, non-Black Americans. So talking about people from Africa, talking about people from the West Indies, all this sort of stuff, when we need to be coming together. This is not the time to be divided. This is not the time. All of the things that were, Tuesday was Blackout Tuesday, all the arguing that was going on, you're posting wrong, you said Black Lives Matter, we need you to take that out of the comments. I just saw so much, and I'm like, look at this division. Look at this division. This is exactly the problem. This is exactly the problem right here. I am of the mindset that you don't know where your next help is going to come from. You don't know who your next ally, may be. You have no idea. Even though I knew that historically where she was coming from and the organization would not even directly benefit me, I still would like to help in the fight that involves my community. And I don't care if it's Black Americans, I don't care if it's West Indians, I don't care if it's people from Nigeria, Ghana, whatever. But all this infighting and all of this, disagreement and splitting of hairs over things that really doesn't matter. It's like, look, you can't be so staunch on your said agenda that you forget about the rest of everybody else. I can stand on my agenda for Black female entrepreneurs. Yes, that is the standout thing for me, but I also understand that there may be other entrepreneurs that may not even be Black, that may be interested in my subject matter. They may be interested in, hey, how can I help? Which I have actually got a lot of that in the past couple of weeks. So you never know where your next ally may come from. You never know where your next person who is going to support you. You have no idea. So my thing is, when you come to the table and you come to the table barking at people and not listening to where they're coming from, it is very disheartening to have a situation like that. It is very divisive within our own communities to have something like that because somebody said something that may be inaccurate. Well, instead of barking at them how inaccurate they are, just point out, well, actually, statistically speaking, this is this, that, or the other, because they really may not know. So the conversation, got heated at times, and then it settled down and heated again and settled down. And basically it was like, my main point was that most people go to the polls, black, white, green, purple, whatever. Most people go to the polls, for voting and don't even understand the voting process. They just know there's this side and that side. And some people just go to the polls and vote for the lesser of the lesser of the evil from the two sides. They don't even research who else is on their ballot. And a lot of those people never vote in their local elections, which really affects you way more than the presidential election. Because your local people are the folks that deal with your judges. They're the folks that work closely with your police departments. They're the folks that work with Department of Transportation, all that sort of stuff. So that pothole on your street that's been tearing up your car for 5 years and ain't nobody doing nothing about it, your local politicians and folks like that are the ones who deal with that stuff. Your city aldermen, all of that, your council members. Those are so important. You need to show up for those. So my point in our, conversation was most people don't even know who their local politicians are. They're senators at the state level. They're House members at the state level. Maybe we need to educate folks on that so they can understand the importance of your organization and your plight and what you're bringing to the table. Because a lot of people just feel, I'm never going to vote. So then the whole thing turned into, well, we got to give them something to vote for. Give them something to vote for. I'm like, okay, but you're working from the top to the bottom instead of the bottom to the top. At the very core of this is that people just don't understand the voting process. So let's educate them on the voting process. You're trying to push an agenda, but you're pushing an agenda and you want people to support you, but you won't even listen to their experience because you just have this one agenda and you're just plowing through with this agenda. But why should I support you? I would never support someone that I feel may fly off the handle in a meeting, because I'm not going to feel like you're going to represent me. I want somebody that's going to represent me in my community and for whatever the particular agenda is. But you're not going to get votes and you're not going to get support, or whatever it is that you're doing. You're not going to get that support when you don't even listen to what other people have to say. So anyway, as we go on, it started getting escalated to the point that she decided to end her side. We were kind of like on a Zoom type phone call. And she was basically, I've been doing this, for a long time. I know what I'm talking about. And you're an immigrant, so you're not going to understand. And I was just like, wow. And she hung up. She, left the phone call. The other young lady that was on the phone call had already left, so she did not experience this situation. So it was just one other person and myself on the call, and we were just stunned, like, wow. We were like, okay. So we had a good conversation, maybe a good, 10 more minutes after that. And I'm like, and we're of the same mind that we want the unity of the Black community, as in the African diaspora as a whole. So we understand that there are smaller things within that, but the bigger picture is for us to be on a united front. And I said to her, I grew up in a neighborhood where there was in a 1 mile radius, not even, there was 10 Baptist churches. Why? Why? Y'all all preaching and teaching the same doctrine. Why is there 10 Baptist churches? When the churches used to let out on Sunday, that is the worst place in the neighborhood you want to be, because the traffic is snarled for hours when church lets out. It was just ridiculous. And I said, well, why can't they just build one, Central Baptist cathedral or something? It's just crazy to me. Back in the day, you had the one Baptist church, you had the one Catholic church, you had the one mosque, you had the one Jewish temple, whatever. You know what I'm saying? I just don't even understand. So, but again, to me, that shows a lack of unity. And you may say, well, it's churches, it's individual churches. Yeah, it is. But you're all of the same faith. And you're separated everywhere. And a lot of that has to do is how throughout history, how we have been pit against each other. You had people, especially with slavery, you had the black people who were out in the field. So you had the field slaves, and then you had the house slaves. And the house slaves were always being told, hey, I'll give you the good food. You can be in here with us in the nice big house if you tell me what the field slaves are up to. When are they trying to escape? What's the story? Give me the scoop. And I'll give you anything you want in here. So it's been it's just been this divide that has been going on. There was a debate actually on Twitter earlier this week, and it was Dominicans. It was talking about Dominicans and how it was, well, not just Dominicans, but it was talking about folks from Latino heritage who deny, on the Latino backgrounds who deny their African heritage. So you had Dominicans on there that were speaking, you had Puerto Ricans on there that were speaking, and, different other Latino groups who have an African heritage and history. And there were so many that were like, I never used to, acknowledge my African ancestors and history and all of that. And, I had to break away from that. My family was always about, straightening their hair, and, my hair was always curly, and, I never really embraced that piece of me, but over the years, especially when I moved out on my own, I embraced that other side, of my heritage. And it's a major piece of your heritage, especially the Latino countries that are in the Caribbean. You are Caribbean people, just like the Jamaicans. You are Caribbean people. So we have to get away from, it's beautiful that we have all these amazing facets that make us up, make up the African diaspora, but we have to get away from this divide. This divide is literally killing us. Just the fact that we were struggling to decide how to pull together Blackout Tuesday. I don't even know if I want to say disappointed, but I was so annoyed with that situation, because people were going around to people's, comments and saying, take the Black Lives Matter, hashtag out of there. You're ruining pertinent information and this, that, and the other. And I'm saying to myself, social media has become a place to get pertinent information on the Black struggle. That's pretty sad. Because if you go to the Jewish community, they don't have to go to social media for nothing. You go to the Asian communities, they don't have to go to social media for anything. They form their groups and they meet on a regular basis to have discussions in their places of worship, in people's homes. They run for office, all of this stuff. So the fact that we have had to rely on social media, and don't get me wrong, I'm glad social media is there because it's highlighting a lot of things that we would normally not see. But it's sad that we have to use that. That's has been such a platform. And really what people were saying was absolutely true. When people were putting up the black squares, using the Black Lives Matter hashtag, it was drowning out all of the videos and, evidence of, police brutalities that shockingly is still happening through all the protests and all of that. So I understood their point, but the fact that that was not well communicated, there was no one really at the head of what was going on or to clear it up. There was a few people that, few activists that tried to make videos and, getting celebrities to retweet, and repost those videos on IG so that people could be informed. But by that time, it was kind of halfway through the day, and it was just confusing on how all that was supposed to work. Because some people thought that we were supposed to be quiet, and then other people said, no, this is the time to put the black square up in solidarity, but to amplify, black businesses and this and that, whatever. Overall, it became a situation that it actually made the news. The disorganization actually made the news, which that definitely ticked me off, because it actually made CNN and a couple other major news outlets, and I was like, look at this, But a lot of that has to do because everybody, even in crisis, because we are in a crisis, even in crisis, we still are divided. Even in crisis, we can't come together. And that is one of the saddest things ever. I've never have been perfect in my thinking or perfect in the way that things are presented in life, but I definitely am about the entire black community. And I don't care if your background is from Egypt. I don't care if your background is from Ethiopia. I don't care if it's South Africa. Wherever you are from, Canada, it does not matter. Part of the African diaspora, I want to be in the circle of positivity with you. Period. And anyone who is not part of the African diaspora, as far as their heritage, and they want to help, you are welcome to help. And that's just how I see it. So when you shut people off and you shut them down and you don't allow them to share their experience, to me, that says that you are closed off to learning. Because unless it's your agenda and your, situation, you're really not trying to learn anything. And you feel like something is owed to you. If you think that this country, the way it's set up, is about to just hand out free reparations to black people, well, you can wait on that if you want to. I would love to see it happen, but until then, what are we going to do to work together? What are we going to do to keep the unity amongst our people? It's very rare that you hear about dissension amongst the Jewish community. If there's infighting, you will barely hear about it because they keep family business as family business. One of the things that the black community is notorious for is airing people out, giving names and, just doing all types of stuff. It's just crazy to me. But I wanted to speak on this because this is the very thing that divides us. This is the very thing that causes dissension. And I know white supremacy exists. And I know dissension handed down to us from within white supremacy is definitely a thing that exists. But we do it to ourselves as well. And this is a great time for us to acknowledge mistakes that we have made and ways that we can make things better. And we have to do better. That's all I got. Kind of a rant, kind of information, kind of all over the place. I get it, but unity is the thing. Unity is the name of the game, and the black community has got to come together. This is a very different feeling than any of the other protests and things. I've been in the protest game probably since, maybe high school, college. I definitely have always been a part of organizations fighting for some type of justice somewhere. Always. That's always something that I've done and something I've been very proud of. I have been an organizer for different, subject areas, everything from inner city hunger to working with the Boys and Girls Club, Covenant House, all these things. I'm well versed in this. And there are plenty other people out there who feel the same way. But I never enter a room like I know it all. I enter a room to learn. because that's how you can better serve your community, by learning. So if you are interested in being a part of our talks, and we are definitely going to be doing more of them, feel free to email me at info@onyxqueenmedia.com, or you can follow me on my social media at Onyx, ONYX, Queen, QUEEN, Media, MEDIA. Talk to you soon, you guys. Bye.